Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 10 of the Modiragatsi competition. Every week it's becoming more and more incredible that we got this far. I'm glad to be back in South Africa and seeing you all from my home this afternoon. It's been an incredible trip with our 2020 and 2021 Modiragatsi winners. I hope that their travels inspired you to really do your best in these last 3 weeks before you submit your final submission during the June holidays. More information on that will follow next week and the week after on exactly how you're going to prepare your application, where you're going to submit it, and how we are going to judge it. I will give you an overview of that over the next 2 weeks. But I really hope that it inspired you. Remember that our winners, regardless of whether it's an individual or a group that wins, will win bursaries to study at any university in the country from Siemens. And then also they will win an awesome trip abroad, again to Germany, between the 2nd and 12th of December this year. So if you want to go and travel with me, really do your best these last few weeks. If you missed any of the assignments, please ask your student assistant to reopen an assignment for you so that you can submit it, because remember, only those submissions that are complete. So everyone that have completed all of their assignments and submit the final video and their final report will be judged, and they will be the ones that will be eligible for those awesome prizes from our sponsors. I once again would just like to remind you of the Femgineering event that the Faculty of Engineering is presenting between the 8th and 12th of August. That is open to any high school girl. Preference, of course, will be given to grade 10s to 12s. Last time I checked, there was roughly 120 girls registered by now. So remember that you need to register if you want a goodie bag, and the first 200 will receive goodie bags. And you will either receive it on our event page. Okay, wait just a moment. Okay, I was speaking about the Femgineering event. So remember that the event will be hosted in the week of Women's Month, or in the week that kicks off Women's Month, with Women's Day, the 9th of August, being the day that we will host you in person. You can choose to be hosted either in Potch or in Johannesburg, at Siemens, or at the Noordwes-Universiteit Faculty of Engineering. So that will be an awesome event. That's also where you will receive your goodie bag and where you will receive a lot of information on all the different streams within the engineering field that you can get excited about. We'll have some hands-on activities that you'll be able to do with both in person and then remotely for the rest of the week as well. And you will also hear from a lot of speakers that are Noordwes-Universiteit Faculty of Engineering alumni that work in places all over the world in very interesting sectors of the economy. So I hope that I will see you all there. And remember, you don't need to be a Modiragatsi participant to take part in Femgineering. And you don't even need to necessarily be interested in engineering right now. Just come and have a look at what the possibilities are. You're not committing to anything by attending, and share this invite with your friends as well. Everyone is welcome. Like I said, preference will be given to the older kids, but anyone of high school age are very, very welcome to attend. That brings me to our back to our Modiragatsi topics for this week. This week, you will look into building a business with your idea, and that will be the following 3 weeks. You will focus on that. And then in our personal development section, we will look at resilience. And especially during the exam time, that is very important. Okay, so we're in week 10 of 12 weeks. Just to reflect again on what you've gained skills on thus far, or have been exposed to thus far. Remember, we started off with design thinking. Remember how you refined your idea, how you re-evaluated the assumptions, and how you would actually test your idea. Then moving on to computational thinking, not necessarily linked to your specific idea, but thinking in a very logical way, breaking up a problem in smaller chunks and then solving those smaller chunks and then putting them all together to become part of a bigger whole again. And that is what we're doing in engineering a lot of the time, is breaking up very difficult problems into smaller chunks that we can actually solve, and then also have a computer solve for us. Then you looked at user experience design, and you reflected on how you can make sure that your user will have a positive experience with your design, how they can be sure to not be confused when they have different options to follow, and how you can ensure that when people think about your product, that they have a positive picture in their minds. Then we moved on to mobile app development and thought about how we would actually give the directions or the specifications to someone that would be developing a software solution for us. For those of you that have decided to complete the optional portion of the curriculum with the Mendix Rapid Developer Program, you would have also learned how to actually implement those new skills in a very easy to use low code environment in Mendix to come up with your own mobile app. So I hope that there's some of you that decided to do that. I haven't checked yet, but very, very valuable skill to have. Then last week when we were in Germany, you looked at intellectual property protection. And again, I thank our friends at Kish IP for the awesome videos that they have made for you. I hope that you understand that your ideas are valuable and worth protecting, and that you will not share your ideas with just anyone without ensuring that they will honor that and that they will not steal your ideas. Just to set your minds at ease, remember that by applying to this competition, we have committed to not steal your ideas. And that's also why we tell you how important it is not to blab to everyone just because you're so excited about your idea, and to just make sure that you have all of the protection in place that you actually need before you start sharing your idea with others. And then this week, moving on to how to pitch your business idea and how to develop a business with just an idea. So this section of the program, these following 3 weeks, are proudly sponsored by the Noordwes-Universiteit Business School, which is also the unit in the university where I work. We are the hosts of this competition as of this year, but this topic specifically, we are curating for you. So I really hope that you find it very valuable. Remember that you can ask questions as well, especially on this topic, on the various groups. If it's a technical question, the student assistants will ask me to help you by answering your questions. So if you have any issues in the next 3 weeks on this specific topic, remember that you are allowed to reach out and you are allowed to ask me for assistance. on this specific topic. But let's get to this evening and the topics in personal development that we looked at. Remember that we started off with looking after your body and then using new skills in communication to reach out to others and developing your relationships with others. We also focused on the mind, and now we are focusing on daring to dream. And I'm very excited to once again welcome our friends from the Center for Health and Human Performance Care to Kids team. And this week, we will be focusing on resilience. So without keeping you much longer, I'm handing over to my colleagues at the CHHP.
Thank you both. Let me just get the right one.
I can continue talking until you're done. I can always talk. Yeah, so remember that you can ask questions and you don't need to wait until the end of the entire session to ask those questions. So remember that as we are continuing through the content, that you can start asking your questions. You can ask them both on the WhatsApp group or on the YouTube live stream, and we would gladly have your questions answered at the end. So regardless of whether you have yeah, we won't stop the presentation to answer those questions, but you'll definitely have the opportunity to have them answered by the end of the session. You're ready now? Cool. Go ahead, Moni.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session today on resilience. So as an introduction to our session today regarding resilience, I would like you to reflect on some of the following questions. What is your first reaction to a setback or disappointment? Do you change or adapt well to new information? Can you anticipate challenges to the status quo? Do you know when to say yes and no? And are you sensitive to the emotional well-being of those around you? So being resilient means facing difficulties head-on instead of falling into despair or using unhealthy coping mechanisms. So resilience is often defined as the mental reservoir of strength that helps people handle stress and hardships. So think about a tree. Trees are able to withstand rain and thunderstorms, snow and heat. They might get some dents and bruises, and their leaves might fall off from time to time, but they don't necessarily break or crumble. And this is what resilience is. It is being able to withstand whatever life throws at you, to have it maybe bend your branches a little, but not to break them. What is most important to understand about resilience is that it is not some inherent trait that some are born with and others are not. We all have some measure of resilience. But the best part of resilience is that it is a skill that every single person can develop. So when we talk about resilience, we often consider the risk factors that are associated with resilience. These are the kind of things that decrease our ability to be resilient. They also increase the likelihood of negative outcomes. So some risk factors include loss or grief, poor academic achievement, lack of social skills, relationship difficulties, isolation, because we know that isolation is inherently often bad for us. And things that happen like changing family structures or changing in school systems can cause quite some instability. It removes the individual from support network or supports that the individual may have. And this instability and uncertainty is often quite stressful for us. Other risk factors include drug and alcohol use. So this is a means of poor coping strategies or the absence of positive coping strategies, and it tends to become quite a cyclical process. Other risk factors include experiencing discrimination or racism, being exposed to witnessing or directly exposed to violence, because this increases the amounts of stress that the individual has, and it means that it weakens the system. So in reducing their ability to cope with stresses as well. Another risk factor includes uncertainty about the future. This can often reflect a lack of hope for the future, which can be a red flag for things like depression or suicidal ideation. And finally, some risk factors include issues with one's body image and the difficulty in search of one's identity. But then we also have protective factors. So there are a series of protective factors that can help us promote and build resilience within ourselves. Some of these factors include positive perceptions and beliefs, mindfulness practices, connection to one's faith or culture, adaptive coping strategies, such as problem or emotion-focused strategies that was mentioned in the previous weeks, flexibility and adaptability to changing situations, positive physical environment, and a social support group.
Okay, so now that we have a better idea of what resilience is, we will discuss why it's important. Being resilient is an important strength to assist us in various areas of functioning of our daily lives. We almost always come across difficult situations that we have to be able to manage effectively. Resilience gives people the strength, the skills, and the ability needed to process, effectively cope with, and overcome difficulties or challenges. Just take a moment to think about your past week or even your month, and there might be one or more times where you were confronted with a difficult situation or task that had an impact on you as an individual. This, being confronted with change and challenges, are inevitable. Resilience as strength can be an important tool to use during these times. So we will focus more in depth on the importance of resilience by looking at 4 types of resilience, namely physical resilience, mental resilience, emotional resilience, and social resilience. So the first one is physical resilience. This is focusing on our body's capacity to maintain stamina and be able to effectively recover when faced with physical challenges. A practical example is the body's ability to recover better after injury. Resilience has an important physical benefit also for promoting your physical health, for better immunity and increase of sleep. The second factor is mental resilience. This refers to your flexibility in thinking. The importance of mental resilience enables you to do the following. Firstly, it weighs your options when confronted with a certain situation, so you will not act impulsively in situations. Rather, you will take time and the effort to make sure that you have considered more than one option before you decide. It also helps you to consider and explore alternatives. This links with also weighing your options. It allows you to not get stuck with one option, but rather, if, for example, one does not work, you are able to regroup and try another alternative. Then unpacking step by step how you are going to strive to reach your goal, but be very clear and specific about what you want to achieve, how you're going to do it, and then the ability to take action. And then it's also the ability to understand different perspectives and to be more open-minded and be able to apply creative problem-solving skills. The third one is emotional resilience. So when we think about emotional resilience, it's important to remember that it is connected to your emotional intelligence, which refers to your ability to recognize and manage your emotions, but also others. Emotional awareness, which is the identifying of emotions, and perseverance, which is keep going, but also acceptance and optimism. Emotional resilience enables you to accept challenges and hardships with flexibility and a hopeful attitude, knowing that even if it's difficult now, this too shall pass and it will get better. Furthermore, it also allows people to look for, but to also find positive things when circumstances are not ideal or when you're faced with unwarranted change. An increase of experiencing more positive emotions and being able to regulate your negative emotions more effectively. And then emotional resilience also helps you to protect us from mental health challenges, as it has the ability to decrease depressive and anxiety symptoms. And the last point about emotional resilience is being able to adapt better to change. So then if we think about social resilience, the fourth type, social resilience, focus on how we connect with others socially. So this is important as it includes social connectedness and good interpersonal relationships, the ability to work well in a team, good networking skills, or taking the opportunity of getting involved with your community. It is important to just remember that social resilience is built on the core traits of mutual trust, but also respect. For example, trust enables us to build on our social resilience as we have the support from and courage to interact with others. So now that we have known more about the importance of resilience, the fact remains that some people are less resilient than others. People who are less resilient often feel overwhelmed, helpless, or a complete sense of hopelessness when they are faced with challenges or even changes in their environment. They often implement unhealthy coping strategies or they engage in risk-taking behavior. The good news is that resilience is not something that we are just simply born with or not. Yes, you can build resilience.
Okay, so that brings us to the next point, and this section will focus on making resilience a little bit more practical and a little bit more tangible. So we will focus on what we can do, or rather focus on, to become more resilient. It is here that I introduced you the 7 C's of resilience. So the 7 C's are kind of components of resilience that you can focus on to develop and strengthen in order to be more resilient in situations that are often difficult, challenging, or adverse. So we're going to look at competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control. So the first skill that we will look at when it comes to resilience is competence. Competence refers to the ability to know how to handle stressful, difficult, and challenging situations effectively. So competence requires skills that have been practiced that facilitate the feeling of being competent. So you might actually remember this from our previous presentation on self-regulation and coping. So one of the skills in self-regulation and coping was to build mastery. So building mastery contributed to being and feeling competent. So competency thus helps us to handle situations successfully and efficiently. So in alignment with the previous presentation, building mastery is a skill that can be done through choosing to complete an activity each day. The activity or task can be categorized from easy to impossible. So it is important to start with a task that falls within the easy category, and as time progresses, you can slowly start to increase the difficulty of the task. So it is important here that you choose a task that is actually realistic. If tasks are impossible from the start, it may in fact counteract the effect. And so you have to slowly build as you go along. The next C is confidence. So confidence is the belief that you have in your own abilities. So once again, when looking at our previous presentation, you'll notice that confidence also arises from building mastery. And confidence is rooted in competence. Therefore, to build confidence, you can also refer to building mastery. It is also important that you are aware of your own self-talk. So that is that little voice in your head when you speak to yourself. So when engaging in a task, confidence often arises from how we speak to ourselves. So remember to treat yourself kindly and with patience. You too are doing your best. When you also think about building mastery, the key is to have a realistic expectation of the activities that you do. The same can be stated with your goals and your day-to-day life. It is important to have a realistic expectation of yourself. If you have unrealistic expectations of yourself, so making that task impossible, and you do not reach that goal or complete that task, it may result in disappointment in yourself. The third C stands for connection. So connection in its most essential form refers to relationships. And as we all know, there are various types of relationships. And thus there are different types of connections that you have. For example, you have intimate relationships, friendships, professional relationships, family relationships, and group or community relationships. So connections, however, serve an important function within resilience. Not only does this allow you to form ties with colleagues, friends, family, and community, it provides you with a sense of security and a sense of belonging. Connections also provide one with a sense of support and can facilitate a feeling of competence or confidence. So connecting with others through clubs and sports, youth groups, family, friends, and school events demonstrates that there are others out there who share your interests, hobbies, challenges, and obstacles. So connection with others creates a sense of security that can be invaluable in facilitating a sense of self-worth, purpose, and belonging. So how do we facilitate connection? There are 4 things, and it's actually quite simple that you can do. The first one is to participate, to basically just participate in opportunities that you have, to learn multiple styles of contact. So this is how you connect with people, how you approach people, and how you find similarities. And that's the third one as well, finding commonalities, finding similar interests. And the fourth one is joining groups such as sport groups or youth clubs or any group within your school. Then we have character. So developing personal character comes from a sense of awareness regarding what feels right or wrong based on your personal values. So having a strong character also ties into a sense of confidence and control, in that it encourages people to follow their own beliefs regardless of the challenges that lies ahead. So character also refers to strengths and weaknesses. The term awareness is once again increasingly important here. It's important to be aware of strengths and weaknesses, as this will allow you to better adapt to situations in a meaningful and successful way. So character strengths are, however, difficult to make practical. The reason being that all of you have different strengths and weaknesses that can be improved. However, what I do want to introduce to you is the first step that you can take in developing your character. So the VIA Institute on Character is an online platform on which you can take a questionnaire, and I want to encourage you all to take that questionnaire. So it's aimed towards identifying your character strengths and weaknesses. So I advise you all to take the survey on viacharacter.com. And once you have completed the assessment, it will be a good idea to read up on your character strengths and weaknesses. And once you know and understand that character strength, you can start investigating ways in which you can develop and utilize both the strengths and the weaknesses. Then we have contribution. So contribution refers to offering something to others that develops a sense of genuine gratitude and gratefulness. And gratitude directly influences attitude. Having a healthy sense of appreciation for the benefits and blessings in your own life often help us to manage our stuck thoughts and strengthens our sense of purpose. So giving to others also destigmatizes the need for help and collaboration from others when we are going through a difficult time, therefore increasing the likelihood that an individual will actually ask for help when it is actually needed. So contribution can thus be roughly translated to giving. So giving doesn't always mean something big or disproportionate. The essence of this practical resilience component is to do something small every day for someone else. So therefore, it is important to also turn your awareness from yourself to others and what they might need. So this can really be anything, whether it is to help someone understand some of the work that you are doing or listening to someone. It can be making a warm drink or fetching water for someone who is too busy to do it themselves. Focus on really the small things that you can do for someone else. And then we have coping. So coping methods are anything we use to navigate, eliminate, or overcome difficult challenges and emotionally stressful situations. So coping is also what we discussed in our previous presentation. So please refer back to that presentation if you need any clarity on what coping is or why it is important. The value of coping and resilience lies within healthy coping behaviors, which enable us to make the best of a situation and adapt to the reality we are presented with. So in the previous one, you have learned a lot about coping and different coping skills that can help you to achieve change, whether it is behavioral, cognitive, or situational change. Within resilience, the coping is aimed at making the best of a situation and adapting to it. Within this, you can use 3 skills that was also done in our previous session. So one of those skills was actually building mastery, or you can use mindfulness. So remember these skills and go practice these skills. Make sure that you use that info that was provided to you in order to cope with the challenges and overcome them in a resilient manner. And then we have control. So to have control over the decisions and actions that you make, they are more likely to know to make choices in a way that they can bounce back from life's challenges, or how they wish they think and act, or that they can determine results based on these choices. So control is something many people want or even crave within their own lives. And a lack of control can often hinder an individual's ability to move forward or make decisions tactfully instead of impulsively or rebelliously. So feeling in control not only develops critical thinking skills, but it can also provide a sense of capability that contribute to the development of confidence and competence, both of which we've seen is actually important for resilience. So the first step in having control is to distinguish. So first you have to look at what do you have control over and what do you not have control over. Within life, we have to accept that there will be things that we don't have any control over. So it's important for us to focus on what we do have control of. So for example, when you think about a situation and the consequences of that situation, what do we actually have control of? We need to look at the situation. Were there aspects that we have control of, or was the situation out of our control? And then also the consequences. So the way we reacted, was there aspects that we had control over in terms of how we reacted to the situation? And also what you have control over is how you interpret that situation and then how you respond to it. So also when you think of all that you are involved in and the exams coming up, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and not in control. So therefore, to regain a sense of control, to regain a sense of competence, we firstly have to prioritize. We have to manage our time. We have to plan and we have to zoom out and create for yourself some perspective. And that's where the distinguishing between what I can control and what I can't control actually comes in. So these are ways in which you can start to take control and stop that domino effect from happening and focus on the strengths that you have, the opportunities that you have. And just remember that resilience is multifaceted and therefore includes various aspects. These 7 C's are ways in which you can start building your resilience in a meaningful way. The purpose of the 7 C's are not to make you aware of possible ways where you can be resilient, but to build the skill. And then next week, we will be focusing on networking.
I lost you for about 3 to 3 minutes. So, we had questions. Neville? Oh, we okay, cool. All right. So please remember that you can post your questions online. My phone rang at exactly the wrong point in time. I'm so sorry. I am watching the WhatsApp group for questions. The only question that I see thus far is not related to the talk, so I will answer it in the meantime while you prepare your questions. And that is whether you are allowed to resubmit any of the assignments that you submitted previously and received a mark for. Yes, you are allowed to resubmit, but please try and only do that if you failed an assignment. Otherwise, you are allowed to resubmit it, but it's not necessarily going to be remarked at this point in time if you already managed to pass. You can then, of course, improve it and use your answers for your final submission. Any other questions related to resilience that you would like to ask? Any additional comments that you, Neville, or Monique, or Sumiri would like to make that you thought of now as you were listening to each other? You're welcome to do so. Seems like we caught all of these students at a very bad time because they're writing exams as of this week. So it's a very, very busy time. We understand that. So I'll give it another 2 minutes. If we don't have any questions during the next 2 minutes, we will end this session. And while we're waiting for more questions, remember that you can still register for the Femgineering event, and you can invite all of your friends to join with you. Remember that we will use the Tuesday event of the Femgineering event to announce the winners of this year's Modiragatsi competition, and we will would at least like to have the semi-finalists there that we will announce before the 9th of August. And then on the 9th of August, we will announce our finalists. But we're not only inviting the semi-finalists, we're inviting all of you, but it would be really bad to announce a winner and hand over a prize to someone on a screen. So I would love to have you there in person to join us for the Femgineering event, and specifically the Modiragatsi prize giving. For those of you that will be joining in Johannesburg, you will be joining us at Siemens Park in Midrand, where Sabina Del Olmo, the CEO of Siemens for East and Southern Africa, will be our host and also our keynote speaker for that event. So we are really, really excited about that. I think our 2 minutes are up. Corin, do you see any questions on your side? Okay. Team, you're off the hook this week. It seems like there's no questions this week. Thank you so much for your time and the effort in your preparations for this week. And then for all of our students watching, good luck with your exams. Remember that we're giving you extended time to actually prepare your submissions for these last 4 weeks. Since we know you're writing exams, and we will only close all of these assignments by the 2nd week of the June holiday, when your final entry will be due. So next week, remember to tune in because I will be sharing the instructions of what will be needed from your side for the final submission, along with the guidelines that we'll use to judge your submissions by the end of the session. So we'll have our usual introduction. We will then have our CHHP team giving their talk, and then at the end of that session, I will focus on the instructions for the final submission. So please join us next week. Have a good week at school, and I hope that you are all safe and healthy. Have a great evening. Good night.